Old was released this past weekend in theaters and was directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and it stars Alex Wolff, Thomasin McKenzie, Gael Garcia Bernal, Vicky Krieps, and Rufus Sewell. It follows a few families as they enter a mysterious beach and they start to realize many of them share something in common and they all might be there for a reason. But as they start to realize this, they start inexplicably getting older. Before I get into this review, I just want to say that there will not be spoilers in this review until the very end, but I will give a warning before I get into that. Until then, I will discuss moments seen in the trailer and vaguely discuss plot points and the overall synopsis you would find. Also, please remember to like and subscribe and follow DM Reviews on Twitter. Link should be in the description. Also, don't forget to check out Demerit Commissions in the Discord server below for great thumbnails, profile pictures, phone backgrounds, and so much more. The first thing I would like to talk about this movie is how grossly mismarketed it is. The trailer for this movie set it up to be a horror movie, which I expected it to be, but it really isn't. It's more of a mystery thriller. It's really not at all horror. It is not a scary movie, and it's not trying to be. There were at least 3 shots in the trailer, which I counted after I watched the movie, that looked like they were going to be straight up horror scenes. 2 were not at all horror scenes. You knew exactly why they were happening, and they weren't necessarily scary. And the other one was a little bit, but that's kind of it. It wasn't really horror because you know exactly what's causing them to be this scared. So it's not as horror as the trailer was suggesting it would be. Honestly, I think this movie would have benefited from more horror. One of my biggest problems is that they never go into the trauma of getting older so quickly and all the death that is surrounding these characters. We don't really get any moments where the kids are crying because of all the death and them growing old, really old, and we don't see how that affects them. That also kind of segues well into one of my other huge problems with this movie. The characters are super underdeveloped, especially the antagonists, but I will discuss them more in the spoiler section of the review. The characters have no personality, and a lot of that stems from the awful dialogue. All of the lines were written so robotic, and so many lines seem very odd, and they don't come back in any way. One character is supposed to be getting some sort of mental disease because they're getting older, so they're incoherently talking about a movie starring 2 actors, but that doesn't come back in any way. I assume that would be something where oh, I remember this movie, and they do this, and oh, that can help us get off the beach, but that doesn't happen in any way. I'm pretty sure that M. Night Shyamalan wrote this movie, so I think this is really on him. The dialogue is so cringeworthy, and it is a large reason why the characters are so one-dimensional and bland. There was more work to be done on characters regardless of the dialogue, but the dialogue certainly wasn't doing them any favors. The acting, however, wasn't too bad. The only one which I really liked was Rufus Sewell. Nobody else was bad or anything, but they didn't do anything to elevate their characters, and considering how bad the dialogue was, they really needed it. I really liked the idea behind this movie. I loved how they managed to make it so that they couldn't leave the beach in a probably somewhat realistic way, and that definitely added to the tension. I also loved that a lot of people seemed to have something in common, which added to the mystery. This movie really feels like it wanted to be rated R. It's PG-13, but it probably should have been rated R. There are many moments where they clearly couldn't show things that they wanted to show, and that also probably took away from the horror that could have been there. This movie is paced extremely poorly. It somehow seems like nothing is happening and everything is happening at the same time. For a while, not much happens, and then out of nowhere, they are telling us everything we need to know, and if you blink, you're going to miss something very important. It also seems like the movie went on too long. It felt like there was a very natural ending, and then there would just be another scene, and then another scene, and then another scene, even though it feels like it should have ended a few scenes ago. I kind of mentioned it before, but the characters just kind of gloss over deaths that should have impacted them. There are times when someone loses somebody really close to them, and we don't even see the reaction. They also throw a new relationship in there, and it is super underdeveloped, and it kind of hurts a few scenes how underdeveloped it is. There are scenes that rely on you caring about this relationship, and they don't work since you've been giving 0 details about the relationship. Something I noticed very early on was the constant blatant foreshadowing of what are supposed to be clever uses of the movie's title, Old. Since most people who will have seen this, including myself, have seen the trailer, and have a general idea of what's going to happen, the constant foreshadowing seems super tedious, and I'm assuming it will get even more annoying on second viewing. The main reason I wanted to see this movie was to laugh at it. When I had the idea to go see this, my main purpose behind it was, I'll go laugh at it. The trailers made the movie look laughably dumb, and it surprisingly isn't. The movie isn't dumb at all, and it isn't silly, which I have to give it major credit for, but this is another reason why the trailer is so bad, and it really failed the movie. For all of the subpar writing on display from M. Night Shyamalan in this movie, he does an incredible job directing it. There's a scene early on in the movie where the rest of the family's in a room, and while one member is outside of the room on the phone looking at them through a window. The camera is actually placed outside of the window, and does a great job of showing the distance they currently feel from their family. And there are other great directing moments, but those are later on in the movie, so I won't discuss them. But this is very common in the movie, and major credit should go to M. Night Shyamalan for this. There's also great cinematography in this movie and some breathtaking visuals, as you would expect considering the setting of the movie. Despite the terrible pacing, horrendous dialogue, and uninteresting characters, the movie is surprisingly entertaining. This really isn't a boring movie, which really surprised me. If you told me before I saw it that I would be entertained by this movie, I'd assume it was because it was so stupid, and it was actually surprisingly interesting due to the compelling ideas present, and somewhat solid execution of those ideas. I'm now going to talk about the ending now with spoilers, so before I do that, I will give my closing remarks about the movie. A great premise and decent small ideas, and a great director, or at least a great directing performance, carrying a movie with not much else going for it. I'm going to give Old a 6 out of 10. So now I'm going to get into spoilers about the ending, so I would recommend leaving if you haven't seen the movie yet, but I kind of recommend it if this movie seems like it's up your alley, but don't expect anything horror related. It's a mystery thriller. No horror, so if that does interest you, or if M. Night Shyamalan interests you, then definitely go check it out. I think he's a solid director. I love Sixth Sense, and Signs is incredible. So this movie did have some sort of interest on me because of M. Night Shyamalan. So if you like his directing style and his movies, then I definitely do kind of recommend checking it out. Just know it's not horror, it is much more of a mystery thriller. So, spoiler time. The big twist at the end of this movie is that the drug company uses the beach to test drugs. They are now able to test drugs in a matter of days instead of years. I love the idea behind this twist. The main problems, which there are a few with the ending, is that they never explain how the beach was created. They just say that nature gave it to them. Secondly, the villains were never developed at all, so you don't care about them when they succeed in finding a new drug that works, and you don't care when they are arrested. And finally, it all happened so fast, and they didn't hint at it at all. Not once was this hinted at. We know that they're all sick in some way, but they never hint that the people who own the beach are using them to test new drugs, and they're using the beach. Due to this, the villains are not even one-dimensional, they're half-dimensional. So them losing in the end has no effect whatsoever. So that's my review of Old. If you made it this far, I assume you have seen it, so you've seen the movie, so make sure to comment what you thought of the movie, and where this movie would rank for you among your M. Night Shyamalan's other movies.